Welcome, new and old friends. My name is 242, and today 42 got us one story. She even borrowed a couple other narrators to help bring it to life. And before this video starts, I just want to thank everyone. We are officially past 1,000 subscribers, guys. Thank you so much. I actually don't have words. Thank you, guys. And remember, if you enjoyed this story, like, subscribe, share, and comment. But you can always wait till the Sunday word for the comment. Now, turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. My cabin mates appeared to be sleeping, so I tiptoed back to bed as quietly as I could. It was only when I saw the red spreading across my chest that I realized they hadn't been asleep. I was hired to find a woman. What I found instead was Madness by Avatarofhorror. What do you do when your perception of reality breaks? How do you move forward with your day when the knowledge you have paralyzes you? The first time I experienced such a feeling was when in combat, and the snap hiss of bullets around you makes you question everything you thought you knew. I'm at the same precipice as I write this. After my tours of duty, I put my skills in the military police to work and hung my shingle as a private investigator. Most of the job was chasing down deadbeats owing child support or catching adulterers in the act, but I finally felt a bit of the freedom I needed. That all changed when I got a call 2 weeks ago from an unknown number. I picked up expecting yet another automated message about my extended warranty expiring, but was met with a gruff and low voice.
Is this Detective Nate Gossamore?
Yes. Can I help you?
You came recommended by Captain Rodriguez as someone who can handle things discreetly.
I sat forward at the mention of my former CO's name.
Oh, and who might I be speaking with then?
Alistair Baines.
The gruff voice responded and my eyes opened wide. The Baines were old money and their hands in various industrial and production enterprises. More than a few of my clients had worked for them, and their reputation as a ruthless family was legendary.
I take it by your silence you know who I am, so I will dispense with the pleasantries. I need someone to retrieve my daughter, Casey. She has taken up with some rather nasty folks and refuses to listen to reason. My patience with the matter has ended and needs to be remedied. I reached out to my contact to find a fixer for this, and your name was mentioned.
I recall that my captain said he was going off to consult with the Baines subsidiary after he left the service.
Forgive me, Mr. Barnes, but are you asking me to kidnap your daughter?
I'm asking you to use your skill and tact to rescue her from a group of people taking advantage of her and her family's money.
And what group is this, if I might ask?
Some hippie cult group calling themselves the Bringers of Light has managed to seduce my Casey into funding them and their endeavors. Some such nonsense about saving the world. Now she won't return her calls, and even cutting off her access to funds hasn't deterred her. But they've poisoned her against me and her mother. She's been brainwashed, I tell you, and I need you to go return her to safety with her family.
I let the information sink in before responding. The Baines were not a family you wanted to get caught up with, and this put a target on my back.
Mr. Barnes, I have quite a few clients at the moment, and I'm not sure if I have time.
If you return her safely to me,
the gruff voice interrupted.
I will pay you $2 million.
And I spit out my coffee.
I hope this ends pointless negotiating or posturing. So, do we have an agreement?
I should have said no. The amount alone should have told me not to go forward, but I muttered.
Yes.
Good. My assistant will be forwarding you information on her. I expect my Casey to be returned to me quickly and quietly.
The phone went silent as Mr. Baines hung up. I stared at my desk in disbelief for a moment, silently cursing myself for agreeing to this. My computer chimed with an email notification, and there inside was a zip file filled with various documents and photos regarding Cassie. I spent the next few hours delving through the material, bank statements of transfers to the Bringers of Light group, photos of Cassie, and one struck me. He was clearly taken at a distance, the work of some other P.I. most likely, and Cassie was standing with a man. She was petite, almost elven in nature, but the man was wild and unkempt. I wasn't unfamiliar with cults, and their leaders almost always preyed on young girls, and rich socialites made the perfect target. Something about the photo, though, seemed off as I examined it. Though positioned behind Cassie, there was some sort of distortion of his image around the photo, like he wasn't completely there. I shook my head and chalked it up to the camera's artifacts and switched over to the cult itself. The leader appeared to be a man who called himself Master Thermus. The name was clearly a fake, and after patting myself on the back for some impressive research work, I found out his real name was Benjamin Cross, a British export who dealt with antiques. A string of charges from smuggling painted a picture of a man who seemed to enjoy the nefarious side of archaeology. Something must have happened, though, as after acquiring several artifacts from the Iraq desert, he disappears. Fast forward a few years, and the man known as Theramus begins popping up in various occult circles, claiming to be the Herald of the Light. A few deep web internet inquiries and calls to friends led me to an unlisted web page for the group. The page only had a message which stated, "The path of light starts with accepting within." A hidden link that took me to an image of a gothic-looking building. A reverse image search came up with a building matching in a small town in coastal Maine. I closed out of everything and moved to get going when I caught myself staring at the photo of Casey and the man behind her. The distortion looked like they were moving, withering, and I blinked to see it return to normal. With another glance, I grabbed my things and headed out. The town before me was covered in a thick morning fog as the sun barely crept above the horizon. Jagged and rocky outcrops caught waves splashing white foam into the air before dragging back out to the sea and repeating over again. Driving through the town, it looked fairly dilapidated, with most of the business run down or boarded up. A broken sign proclaiming the town to be the great place to live and work seemed to ooze irony. Torn advertisements for a fishery and cannery around the town told a tale in shredded billboards of an abandoned industry town. I drove through the town for a bit before finding the Gothic church from the photo on the internet. Abandoned warehouses and vacant lots made the building stand out as an oddity for the area. I parked my car and set up for observation. The building was likely beautiful at some point, but years of neglect left the structure decaying. Stone masonry was cracked and stained glass reliefs were broken and boarded. Throughout the day, people came in and out of the two large doors greeting each other with fervency. All were plain clothes, and something had me a bit disappointed that whatever this cult was didn't have some sort of matching tracksuits. I kept a mental log of visitors, but Cassie wasn't among them that I could see. I was chewing on a granola bar when I heard a knock on the window behind me. I snapped my head to see a woman, probably in her 30s, with shoulder-length brown hair waving at me. How she could have snuck up on me, I didn't know.
Are you also interested in joining the light?
she called through the window as I rolled it down.
You don't need to watch from a distance, as all are welcome.
Yes, I found your website and wanted to know more.
I responded, playing dumb. The woman's face scrunched with a smile.
Oh, joy. Then come on, I'll take you inside. Master Thamuz was just about to begin his daily session.
I'm not sure I'm ready yet.
The woman grabbed my hand and gestured.
Please come. You've made the pilgrimage this far. Come and finish your journey.
I figured I couldn't just sit watching anymore without drawing attention, so I might as well get inside and see if I can find Cassie.
All right. Lead on, miss.
Oh, just Daisy is fine.
She waited patiently for me to exit the car and start walking towards the church. Daisy then locked elbows with me, guiding me forward.
You're going to be right at home here. I just know it.
As we ascended the stairs to the church, others were entering and greeting each other and seemingly paying Daisy and me no mind. The inside looked much more well-maintained than the outside. Everything from the floors to the pews were scrubbed clean. Daisy walked me over to the seat near the front as the rest of the congregation walked in. Whatever religious imagery had been in this church previously had been removed, and in its wake were hundreds upon hundreds of candles. The wax from multiple uses left to drip over each other and grow again and again. A hush came over the group as a man entered into the front of the room, as the man from the photos came to the center. He wore simple dark robes while his long hair flowed wildly, as he extended his hands in exhalation to the assembled people.
Brothers, sisters, we have come here in jubilation of the light.
As the people echoed back for the light.
The world is sick, brothers and sisters. It is up to us who have taken the light within to spread it far and wide, to relieve the people of their pain.
The crowd again echoed for the light as Daisy pulled on my elbow, gesturing for me to repeat as well. The robed man gestured to the burning mound of candles behind him.
Our community here burns as these lights do. Individual lights burn to form a greater illumination here. So do we give praise to the light, so we give our bodies to the light.
I muttered for the light, along with the others to Daisy's smile. From behind a curtain, the form of Cassie Baines emerged in a white robe and joined Thamuz. In her hands, she carried a pile of flowers, which she presented before the pile of candles, bowing deeply. A hum that sounded like buzzing emerged from the congregation as they watched Cassie present the offering. It was methodic, but also unsettling as my skin began to rise the longer it went on. Cassie walked in front of Thamuz, and I blinked as I tried to focus on the man. The similar distortion from the picture seemed to appear again as I tried to focus on him. I shook my head.
I need to get out of here.
I looked down at Daisy, who held my arm tightly. The buzzing sound of the group seemed to be amplified as Cassie joined her voice to their adulation.
Please, I need to get out of here.
And the sounds began to make me ill, but Daisy simply looked on, making the now skin-crawling sounds herself. I turned back to the man standing behind Cassie, as his hands waved in the air, making signs and gestures to the candles, which seemed to dance with his movements.
I need to go.
As I stumbled over Daisy, something inside me needed to get away from this place at any cost. I stumbled getting out of the pew and hit the stone wall of the church, and my vision went black. My eyes shot open and I found myself lying on a small cot and an ice pack fell from my head as I sat up. I blinked a few times to see that I was in a stone room in the church. The pain from my head was matched by a stinging pain in my right arm, which had a severe cut along it. Did I cut my arm before?
Oh good, you're awake.
A small voice called out to me. I turned to see Cassie walking over to me and place the ice pack back on my head.
I'm so sorry. You come to seek the light and get a bump on your head instead.
I rubbed my head and pain shot through me.
Prayer sessions can be powerful. I hope your next experience is better.
I looked over Cassie. Her demeanor was warm, and there seemed to be no obvious sign she was being held against her will. My vision must have still been in flux from the hit, as I had a hard time focusing on her and looked away.
Ugh. And how did you come to join this church?
She laughed heartily.
Oh, well, let's just say I was searching for an answer and found it here with Mr. Thamas. He and the congregation have done such wonderful things.
She helped me to my feet as I stood up.
When you get your bearings, come with me, and I'll show you around. Daisy said you sought the light, and I want to help.
I thought I hit a bit of luck. I might be able to get Cassie out of here easier than I thought.
Yes, if you could show me around, that would be great.
She smiled at me and I returned it, looking for ways to just grab her and leave. After a few minutes of blood rushing to my head, I gestured for Cassie to lead on.
So, you said you were searching for an answer. What was that answer?
As we walked on through the church, her previously warm visage diminished.
Let's just say my family has a long history of choosing the wrong things, and I wanted to make a better choice for the future.
We exited back into the now empty main room.
You drove through this town to get here, right?
And I nodded.
Well, this town used to be a company town owned by my family. When they decided it wasn't profitable anymore, they shipped everything overseas.
She gestured to the boarded-up windows above.
The town died as a result. While searching for answers to why such awful things could be allowed, I sought out Master Thamas, and he helped me see the world was sick and needed a new light to cure it.
And what a light we have found in you, my dear Cassie.
As Thamas entered, walking over to us.
Daisy told me we had a new pilgrim today. Welcome to the light, brother.
And he placed his hands on my shoulders. There was a presence to the man. He seemed to tower over me, even though we likely were the same height.
Yes, thank you.
I responded, trying to take a measure of the leader. The man turned and placed himself behind Cassie, and I knew I needed to rethink how to get her out from underneath his grasp.
But the path to the light starts with honesty, brother. So why don't you tell us why you're really here?
I froze.
What do you mean?
Thamas raised his eyebrow.
We searched your car and found a number of interesting things, Mr. Nate Gossamer.
Holding my case file folder. Realizing the situation, I started to back up towards the door when a number of the congregation members emerged to block it. I turned to see Daisy walking forward, holding a gun pointed at me.
Now, sweetie, don't go anywhere.
I looked for any exit, but found all my avenues blocked.
So, Mr. Gossamer, why have you polluted this holy space?
I looked at the man whose image seemed to be not wholly there in reality, standing behind Cassie.
I'm here to rescue Cassie from your clutches.
Thamas let out a deep laugh and walked out towards me, leaving Cassie behind.
What? Did you think you were the first person sent by Mr. Baines?
He gestured to the members in the room.
See here, brothers and sisters, the light cannot and will not be stopped. Evil will continue to stalk us, but again, we prevail.
The crowd chanted, "For the light."
Mr. Gossamer, Cassie is a vessel for the light. Hell will bring a new dawn. It is not me they venerate, it is her.
I turned to Cassie to see that the distortion in my vision was from her, not Thamas. All the warmness from before had vanished as she walked towards me.
I already told you. I sought Master Thamas out.
She walked over to me and grabbed my arm with the cut on it. Where she touched, it burned as if something underneath the skin moved.
I see some of the light has taken root inside you now as well. Be grateful for such a gift.
I looked down to see my skin writhe and move.
What the fuck did you do to me?
She cocked her head, looking almost hurt.
I simply shared part of the light with you.
I turned around to see everyone present have movement under their skin. Some of their arms, like myself, other bulging from their heads or faces.
What the hell is going on here?
Cassie let my arm go and grabbed a knife handed to her by Thamos and gestured to Daisy to come over. The brown-haired girl joined us, bowing to Cassie. With a quick motion, Cassie slashed a knife across her throat and red viscera sprayed everywhere. I tried to jump back, but was grabbed by the other members and was restrained. I was forced to watch as Cassie bent down into the blood, pooling where Daisy lay gargling. She reached her hand into the opening she had cut as the assembled crowd chanted for the light at the horrific display. From the body of Daisy emerged a slithering winged creature. Cassie cradled the grotesque thing in her hands, offering her comfort as the body of Daisy mutilated by its exit. It, like Cassie herself, seemed to create a distortion in my vision where I tried to track it as she looked back at me.
This world is far too sick to continue on, Mr. Gossamer.
As she walked towards me with the abomination that made the same buzzing sounds the congregation had made at the service previously.
My parents are living proof we cannot continue. Greedy, selfish creatures that don't deserve to continue.
She moved the withering thing in front of my face as the skin under my arm reached out to it in a seeming communion.
I saw you were a veteran. You've seen war, haven't you? You've seen firsthand that I'm right.
I shook my head violently in defiance.
Whatever these things are, you cannot seriously believe this is the solution.
Cassie laughed.
They are exactly the solution. Master Thamos found a very interesting artifact in the desert of Mesopotamia. An idol to the god Nergal contained one of these bringers of the light.
Cassie gestured to Thamos, who bowed and from his robe presented the idol to her. The withering, maggot winged creature climbed and slithered around the idol from Cassie's hand.
Through his herald, Thamos, did Nergal bring the gift of light to me.
Cassie took the idol to the head of the church floor and raised it high.
I am the queen, the vessel of holy light that will cleanse this world. The poor rays of light that inhabit us need us to grow and mature, though. You are now part of that wondrous work, so rejoice.
The crowd was chanting and buzzing, and my mind was ripped in insanity at the solution. I pushed and shoved the hands holding me away and dashed towards the knife on the floor by the corpse of Daisy. The screams of anger from the congregation at my escape echoed behind me as I picked up the knife as I ran at Cassie. I was determined to end whatever madness had affected everyone, pushing Thamos away as I ran with full speed at Cassie, whose eyes went wide as I plunged the dagger into her heart. Her eyes went wide and a smile crept across her face. I looked down to see not blood but maggots fall out as the winged creature hopped off its perch on the stone idol slashed at my face. I tried to bat away as the claws raked over me. As the creature tore at me, I could hear Cassie's laugh as she pulled the knife out and threw it on the ground.
I am the swarm of light, the hive of the dawn divinely chosen by Nergal.
As insects and creatures I didn't recognize swarmed out of her mouth. With every ounce of strength I had left, I leapt at Cassie, blood pooling over my eyes from the lacerations as I did so. I pushed with everything I had, knocking her backwards into the hundreds of candles behind her as she pushed me aside in my assault. A high-pitched scream ripped through the church as flames engulfed Cassie. All the members of the congregation fell to their knees. Their horrific buzzing sounds ceased while they clawed at themselves. Pulsing and withering things in their skin seemed to rebel as Cassie's screech of pain, and as the flames consumed her, so did the creatures consume their hosts. As Cassie burned as if in effigy, I grabbed the knife and slit my arm open as the withering tentacled creature lashed out in anger. Dripping blood everywhere, I ripped that grotesque thing that had embedded itself in me out, throwing it towards the now spreading fire. The screams of the assembled people became deafening as Cassie burned in chunks as creatures tried to flee the inferno that was her body. The fire had engulfed the area and smoke choked the air. I saw an exit and dashed through the blaze to find it barricaded. Coughing on the polluted air, I used my only good arm to throw the boards and debris aside. The fire was now raging and my skin began to burn in the heat. With a final push, I got the door open to the outside and fell forward. The night sky was illuminated by the burning church, and I stumbled away to my car. I turned back to hear the unearthly wails of pain before being silenced. After the fire, it was reported as a mass suicide. The group's literature and activities were declared to be a cult, and tied up neatly in a story with their fiery demise. Everyone could be identified from their dental records except Cassie, which led Mr. Bands to conclude she must still be out there and firing me. Little did he know what she was or had become. Tending to the wounds on my arm and face, I looked something horrific. However, my appearance was the least of my concerns. I cannot close my eyes without seeing the horrible creatures, the withering things in my body, the formless horror that was Cassie Barnes. What's worse, who could I tell of this and be believed? I took a swig of the strongest liquor I had and fell into the bed. I looked down at my arm and felt ill. I felt ill because I couldn't quite focus on it, like it was distorted. I asked the professor why none of the monsters we had documented were intelligent. He said the smart ones convinced you that they aren't monsters. And with that, we're near the end of this video. What can I say? I truly love a story that turns the tables on you, when you assume that damsel in distress has been brainwashed, but really seems to be the mastermind. When all the people around you are not really human anymore. Those kind of stories, and also leaving at the end that you're just not sure what's going to happen to that poor detective. Very well done. Definitely love it. Thank you, Avatar of Horror, for letting me bring this story to life. And of course, thank you all those narrators who helped me bring these stories to life. Alistair Bands was played by Dark Little Voices Shade. Detective Nate was played by Phoenix Fire. Daisy was Lady Spookaria. Master Thamus was P.A. Nightamres. And Cassie was played by Dark Little Voices Decay. All of you did a great job to bring these characters to life, guys. Thank you so much. And of course, if you'd like to check out any of these narrators, their links are down below. Make sure you tell them 242 sent ya. But before you go, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications. And of course, share this with anyone who might enjoy it. All these things really help the algorithm realize that this is a channel people might like to check out. But if you would like to help in other ways, I do have a Patreon where for $1 a month you get early access to the audio, and an extra story every single week. Of course, I also have a PayPal where you can give me a one-time tip if you like, or merch if you like to get something else out of it. All the links are down below, including the ones for my socials. But of course, I won't lie, I would love a comment, and that would help with the algorithm as well. But first, I'll get you that Sunday word. On to right now is everyone who wrote me a sentence using last week's word. As always, guys, thank you so much. Now, on to this Sunday's word, which I hope you'll paint me a pretty picture with it. Because I picked artist. Because, truth be told, I just really want to see what you'll write with it. Now, write me a sentence down below, or go to Twitter, adding me, and you'll be in next week's video/photos. But as always, guys, thank you for watching and listening. It really means the world to me. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.